Hi everyone, most welcome to the first session of Charcha. I want to thank my friend and student Sagar Kamble from Viva College of Art for helping me out and taking the initiative in arranging this. There are a tremendous amount of responses from the Google form we got today. I'd like to, and many of them are humorous, and I really like the sense of humor shown by many of the students and the kind of questions people asked. And I was also happy to see a lot of design, other academicians and professionals also chipping in with their questions. I will start with the most interesting question first. It is, do you like masala chai? What does IDC look for in its students? So right now I don't like masala chai. I don't add any masala to my tea. I like the tea as it is. What does IDC look for in the students is we are looking at the sensitivity towards the context of India as a nation and the kind of contribution a designer can do to the society at large. And there are a lot of requirements and a lot of vacant spaces in the Indian scenario, which where we want our students to work on. And we look forward to sensitivity towards human beings, the environment, the nature, and the ability to think and conceive ideas and work on them. So these are some of the qualities we look for in students: originality, sincerity, and the open mind to learn new things. The next question is about how to develop my own visual language as college progresses. So, developing your own visual language is very important as a design student. The most important thing is that you will be exposed to good work done by designers all around the world, and you have to be mature enough not to be influenced by any of them, because at a young age we are all like very vulnerable to different people and their work, and we start admiring other designers and we start imitating them. So one of the easiest traps students fall into at the beginning of their career in design education is that you get too influenced by what you are imitating, and then you lose your original work and the quality of the work. So important thing is look around for different kinds of work done by different people and try to understand that everybody has their own style, and you have to put in as much of hard work as possible and observe things around you and keep on doing sketching and study things around, and you have to work really with focus on how to create your own visual language. Even if it is a drawing, your own illustration style is bad or good is not a point. The thing is, you should be able to call it as your own. What is the difference between applied art, visual communication, and communication design? How freshers can decide what to do? So, applied art is a term developed in the 50s where the British they needed a lot of cheap labor to execute things which they had already decided and planned. So many of the ad agencies at that time, the creative directors and the visualizers are all foreigners, and they wanted a lot of people from here who can do the implementation of work. So there was something called the artwork. So once you do the scribble and the idea is conceived, you have to do a lot of work in cutting and pasting and taking photographs and putting the artwork together. And a lot of this kind of things were there. Of course, later applied art school design, they evolved into much better organizations, education institutions after independence. But applied art as a term and the way it is taught all over India, most of them are more geared, focused towards advertising design. Like what do you call it as persuasion design? You persuade a customer to buy things which he may or may not need with the money he may or may not have for a need which he may or may not have. Visual communication, on the other hand, is a very broad spectrum. It has got 100 subgroups inside it. Publication design, calligraphy, typography, information graphics, packaging design, exhibition design. 100 things like that come under this thing called visual communication. So, persuasion design or advertising design is one of them. Later, what happened is that a few years back, all the institutes all over the world decided to change the nomenclature from visual communication to communication design to take the umbrella bigger and take more things inside that group. So more or less, I will term my personal views. I will term both as more or less same: visual communication and communication design. But applied art is more or less focused on the persuasion design or advertising field. Next question is that why Indian languages do not get respect in India? This is a very interesting question. It came from a friend of mine who was a very renowned font designer and academician also. So there is some problem with the way we teach and the education system itself, that if you look at our applied art institutes or design colleges all over India, maybe only a small percentage of them teach Indian language calligraphy or typography. So many of the students who pass out from such colleges, they know how to do English or Roman calligraphy, but they don't know the mother tongue calligraphy. They can't do typesetting in their language, but they can do in English. They prefer to do a poster in English rather than an Indian language. So this is to do with the roots of, after British left, we still have this mentality about English, and we make fun of people who don't know English. But when a German comes here or a Russian person comes here, if they don't know English, I don't know how many people will laugh at them. But when one of us, we don't know, a person doesn't know English, it's a big problem. This is a mindset, and this is reflected in the way typography and calligraphy is taught in Indian languages also. And this is one of the reasons why we don't have enough work going on in font design or experimental calligraphy or experimental typography in any of the Indian languages. In some of the languages, we have to search for a local calligrapher who can do calligraphy in that language. So it is a question of mindset, and the education system has not come out of this English-centric mentality. We don't have a curriculum to teach calligraphy in Indian languages. It is up to the teacher whether man kare to kare. If they like, if you look at the formal curriculum of many design or applied art colleges, there is nothing like calligraphy in Indian language, mother tongue, or typography or hand lettering in our own language. But English is in Roman lettering and Roman calligraphy is all taught very. with intense. So it is a mindset issue, and we need to relook at how do we teach things. And next question is, nowadays every student artist are so into working in digital medium, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, etc. Do you think the traditional drawing technique like manual painting, drawing, sketching, calligraphy strokes, use of charcoal, paints, etc. is vanishing day by day? I don't think so. The way, if you look at things happening in Instagram, uh, or if you look at Facebook and things like that, you will see a lot of artists, a large number of artists and students working in traditional media, and then they are sharing it. Some people even share the video of how a painting is done in charcoal, how calligraphy is done with different tools. And I am always, once you are into the traditional media, I think it is so lovable that I don't think the digital media can go anywhere near it or replace it. So, as a calligrapher, I have tried different digital tools, including the iPad and all that. But the touch of pen, the feeling of this pen nib or a brush touching the paper and then leaving that mark there, I think that joy, my personal view is that digital media can't do that. So, but I don't think uh, it will vanish at all because we are adapting to that. So we are using the social media, digital media as a platform to showcase our talents which are in traditional media. So Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign and all, okay, they have their own advantages. But for an artist, as you have mentioned in your question, I think the everything you mentioned, like painting, drawing, sketching, calligraphy, strokes, and all, I think it will thrive because now there is much more chance of showing it to the world and getting appreciation and getting in touch with other calligraphers or other painters around the world. There is much more motivation, and digital media can be used effectively to share or showcase your work. So I think traditional media will thrive more in the days to come. Okay, Divyansh has asked this question. Does games need specific fonts according to that game style or use standard font? So in a gaming interface, one of the important things in a gaming interface is to how to keep the user engaged and how do we make the machine interact with the user with clarity. So you should choose a font which is extremely readable and which is having clarity, precision, and efficiency. But there are some cases where a logo of a game is done. It depends on the context. The logo or some of the main titles or subsections, you can choose a font according to the meaning or the context. But the interface font has to be decided very carefully so that we should not disturb the user who's playing the game. Actually, the font should help and it should be silent and should help the user understand what the machine is trying to say or the control panel organization and the interface itself. The next question is, what made you land into this typography world? So this I had to go through a biographical sketch of when I was a child. I noticed that the same letter is shown differently in different mediums. So I remember that once I saw a big poster of a film called Jesus. So Malayalam it was written Jesus using the first letter was Malayalam Ja. And then there was a newspaper called Janayugam. So I looked at the masthead of that newspaper. That Ja is different than this. Then I started observing the way Ja, this letter is done in many different places. So newspaper headlines it is different. The body text is different. In calligraphy, the same Ja is different. So I found it fascinating. The beautiful shapes are used to say the same letter form. I asked my parents that how come this letter is same, but why is it looking so different in all of them? So I was very fascinated by this. Then later I came to know there is something called lettering, and then I didn't know the name. There is a name called calligraphy. When I was in the fifth standard, I had a teacher who is also now a friend in Facebook. He's in the spiritual path. Now his name is Swami Durgananda Saraswati ji. He was my teacher in my fifth standard, my class teacher. He was sent by the government to attend a special training in calligraphy. I was in the fifth standard, then he came back and then he taught all of us calligraphy. I found it so beautiful. It opened the really new life for me. It opened a new world for me. It was like really entering into a beautiful garden or something like that. I never thought with some basic tool like that, somebody can create such beautiful letter forms. I still remember the lowercase h how he used to do, and how he taught us the triangular forms and all that. And he used to make some posters and put it into the class, and I used to spend hours just looking at the beauty of the letter forms. That is a time I think I learned the term called calligraphy. Then much later, maybe after my 11th or 12th standard or something, I came to know there is something called font design. And a friend of mine gave me this book called Letra Set. He was a student in Applied Art Institute that time. That Letra Set book was it was like opening another world for me. I really, okay, now there are names for each letters. And then I started noticing, so India Today Master does got a different font. India Today, some cover story had a separate, different font. For those times, they used to use Palatino for their headline. So from the letter set book, I could match and find out, okay, the this is what each font looks like, and this is a name and all that. Now, then I got admission to MS University Baroda. I went there, and they started answering all the questions I had in my mind. And after 4 years of graduation, I got admission in IDC, and then I met Professor R.K. Joshi, the god of typography. Then he, like everybody else, he just pulled my hand and made me climb the ladder up to the another world of typography. He is the one who taught that we should be sensitive to Indian languages, because we had only 10 people in the class that time. I still remember the first day he said, you are the only 10 people who can do something for the Indian scene. So that is how I landed in this field. I think partly it is by birth, and partly it is because of the great gurus I had in this field. I really want to thank all of them, all wonderful professors and teachers I had. God blessed me with so many of them. All my teachers, I want to thank them. My school teachers and all my teachers in MSU Baroda and IDC, and all the great typographers who I worked with in my professional life. because every day was a lesson for me. I would like to take one question from the comment section today. Sanju has asked this thing. How do you encourage awareness of the English centric mindset in people around you? Ironic that I am asking this in English. How to start and encourage this unlearning mindset that equates language to class? I think this has to start from the school time. The time has come, we need to rework, totally redesign the way a syllabus is written in the schools. And calligraphy and typography should be taught, and design, overall design, should be taught from the at least from the 7th standard onwards. And then this, right from the 5th standard onwards, we should be sensitizing students to be kind, and to be responsible for things around us and around for India and the people of India. If that happens, then this all things will change. Then this English centric mindset will change. We will be able to work more. Nowadays, people even feel shy to write a comment in Indian language, or to shy to type something in Indian language for a WhatsApp message, because it is all ingrained deep into our mindset that anything other than English is a big problem. That has to change. So I think we have to look at the root cause of what the school curriculum itself and the way we teach things. And design educators also should encourage students to teach or give assignments in Indian language. That is why in my class, in calligraphy, the first assignment I give is express the concept of rain in your mother tongue. So some students were very surprised. Oh my God, calligraphy, can you do it in Indian language? Why not? Then I asked them to explore all the different kinds of tools. I have a student of mine from my NID Vijayawada, Gayatri, who took inspiration from that assignment, did a lot of calligraphy, the word Mala in Malayalam, and it was used as a title for a film later. So it is a question of just giving that spark inside them. They will do, everything is needed in Indian languages. You need to show the path. Shaji Charakat has asked me this question. What is the best book to learn about typography and its usage? Like where to use which font? So, some of the good books on design, which I really recommend other people to read, they are all there in my blog called gvsree.blogspot.com. But you have asked a specific question, where to use which font? So yet this depends on the context and the kind of what is your final output. Is it a newspaper or a magazine or a logo, or is it a body copy or a display font? So the answer to this will depend on that. But it is very, very important. I tell all my students that please think for 1 minute or 2 minutes. Am I using the right font for the right purpose? 2 minutes, that's all you need. Many of these problems can get sorted out by just thinking over this. The next question I will take. My elective is photography. I am interested in food styling and food photography. Even I had started to work towards my goal, but after the final year, where should I have to approach? To do masters is important in photography field. I am very happy to know that you are interested in food styling and food photography, but in any field. My personal opinion is doing a master's gives you 2 valuable years to focus on one and then go deep into one topic. You have to search all over the world. Nothing is impossible. You need to search all over the world if you are interested in food styling photography. Find out the best person or best place to learn this in the master's school. Keep on searching and do hard work and go find the best institute in the world which is into food styling photography and apply for a master's there. Financial assistance, everything you will get if you search with sincerity, and you will succeed in it. So be confident about yourself. But my personal opinion is masters will help because it is very good to focus on something and then go deep into it. Okay, I am very happy to see this question from Nitya. Why is Arial considered to be a bad font? I'll need 1 hour to explain that. Let me see if I have the time to do that. What I will do is I will write it in my blog. Why is Arial, Comic Sans, and all of this are considered to be bad fonts? Because if you start discussing Arial, it will need 1 hour to do that. Okay, now Girish has asked me this question. Hi Sreekumar, how do we more emphasis on other language fonts? So the things, seriously, things have changed over the last 10 years. There are some very, very brilliant, very talented youngsters who have taken up font design in Indian languages. So there are a lot of good type foundries coming up in India. And if you look at the Typography Day conferences we started 10 years back, it has made a very big impact on the youngsters who take up font design as an activity. So there are a lot of very talented font designers, and their work is also being published. Google Fonts itself, if you look at Google Fonts, you will see very good quality Indian language fonts available now. So last 10 years, things have changed a lot. I want to tell all the people who are watching and commenting, all the questions which I see in the comments which are not answered will be answered in the next session because of our time limitation. I will have to close at 6:45. I have a very interesting question coming up because I had close to 100 questions already in through Google Forms. I had to give preference to them. So whoever is writing in this comments, I will save them and I will definitely answer them in the next few sessions. The next one is a very interesting one. Is there a big money making future in commercial art? This is normally asked by parents when many times children want to do commercial art and they keep on insisting and telling the parents that I want to pursue a career in commercial art. Then the parents come to meet me and ask, "Paisa milega kya? How much money will you get in commercial art?" So unfortunately, the interesting thing about money is that all these parents want to have a clear numerical answer. After 2 years, how much money my son or my child will get? So they keep on asking. So the thing is, they get frustrated because I cannot give a numerical answer. So the answer to this question is it is very subjective. Your question is there a big money making future? So big money making future, the concept of this is very different for you and me. So I don't know. What do you mean by big money making future? Owning a plane is big money or not? According to you, what is big money? So accordingly, I will have to answer this question. Many people ask, will my child get enough salary? What is enough salary? I don't know. For me, one amount will be enough salary. For you, it might not be. So it is very difficult to answer this question. Another question I have is, what kind of variety work is necessary for the portfolio? You have to be careful that a portfolio is something now your future or prospective employer will look at, but he doesn't have all the time which you think he has. So, in maximum 5 minutes, you should be able to tell the prospective employer what are the things you can do. And nowadays, I will put it as you need to have something like a 70% all-rounder feeling and 30% specialist. It is like IPL. Every IPL team owner is looking for all-rounders because a bowler can bowl only 4 overs and things like that. So, for example, if you are specializing in food photography, I will prefer maybe you should put 70% of your portfolio should be on food photography. Other can be on other subjects which you are competent with. But always remember there is something called reduced attention span and information overload. Especially when at the time of this COVID lockdown, when all of us are forced to spend 6 hours a day on digital media, there is this information overload. Now, your prospective employer might be looking at 100 resumes or 100 Behance links from people who apply for a job. So the challenge is, how do you impress that person in 5 minutes time? And follow the inverted pyramid structure, and whatever things you are good at, select 5 of your best works and put it up the order. Okay, so there is one question from Nanki. What approaches we need to take to create better Indic typefaces in coming times, especially in the challenging post-COVID scenario? Would love to know your thoughts. See, any typeface, whether Indic or Roman or whatever, it has to serve the basic functions of legibility and readability. There is nothing like post-COVID scenario or pre-COVID scenario in terms of a good typeface. A good typeface, whether it is letterpress or digital or pre-COVID or post-COVID, it should communicate properly. It should help a person, a human being, to communicate something to another set of human beings with clarity, precision, and efficiency. This is my personal take on it. And of course, in post-COVID scenario, we are to looking at digital devices with low resolution, a different resolution displays. Most probably, you will be communicating through digital media, WhatsApp and Instagram, Facebook, and email and all that. So you need to be careful about understanding the nuances of pixel-based typography and how hinting is done and how readable or how clear your font is in on screen. So on screen, this visual language has to be dealt with very carefully in the future, in the time to come. Then one student has asked a very interesting question: why design educators are now justifying online education? So this question, why design educators are now justifying online education, gives a hint that design educators were not supporting online education earlier. I personally don't agree with it, because so many years back IDC started creating a wonderful database on design knowledge on the online platform, and thousands of students from all over the world are accessing it. dsource.in. on a large scale for the last so many years. So all of us here are in support of online education, and IIT works a lot on sharing knowledge with others. So we have a lot of things called design outreach program. We have distance education. We have open design school. We have D-Source. So there are a lot of a lot of platforms where our knowledge we are trying to share with others through online. So I don't think design educators were at any point against online education. Now, if you ask me why are we just using online education now, or for obvious reasons to save our life and your life. So it has triggered of a trend, whether you like it or not, that the future will be lots of classes will have to be done through online, and only in design education maybe 20% of the classes will be held in real life. Others slowly will move on towards. This is happening at IIT for a long time. Many subjects, the entire MP4, the video file of the lecture is available online. If you miss it or you want to listen to it, the PowerPoint and the PDF and all the study material used in the class, everything is available online. And for us, it was always like this that even when we were teaching face to face, we used to keep a lot of data for the students, the person who misses it, or many students who want to refer to that again and all. We always used to keep that. So, but in the future, I think a lot of things will change. But unfortunately, many of the very important skills of any design activity has to be taught in real life. It cannot be done online. For example, ceramics, pottery, bamboo craft, three-dimensional design, woodwork or metalwork, calligraphy, for example. We cannot teach that through any online media. It has its own limitations. So many things like sketching, real life drawing and all. It has to be taught in real life with the teacher in the class. You can't clay modeling and all that. So a large part of design education will still go back to the traditional, but many other things can be taught, like research methods or history of design. All this can be taught in an online environment. Okay, and a very interesting question a student has asked is, I can copy quite well. What? How can I learn to? How can I learn or teach creativity or be creative in my work? Copying something is we teach during the initial stages of any art and design education. If you go to an art school or a design school, the first 1 month or two, I think, you're given an object to copy, or you are asked to copy a famous painting, or you're. But don't take it so seriously. It is meant to get you familiar with the tools you use and to get you familiar with the, the actual process of creating something in visual media or any media. So that is to be taken as a necessary evil in design or art education. Please don't take it seriously, and I really wish nobody says this. I can copy quite well. So after you're done with copying in the initial stages of a design education, I think later you should move away from it and develop your own style, and you should show your work to the teachers wherever you are studying, and request them to guide you towards your own original work. First few years, you'll find that the original work you do is causing you a lot of pain, and you feel, oh, this is not what I wanted. Don't worry, all designers and artists face the same thing. I have never seen any artist or designer who says, okay, this is exactly what I wanted and this is 100% quality what I wanted and I'm happy with it. No. Whatever we do, that 1% remains. So it could have been better. So I really feel that all of you should come out of this copying thing. It is just in the initial stages of any design education or art education, it happens, but later you should all get into your own creative thing. But you should be confident and say that whatever I have done is mine and it's not copied, it is original. Even if it is bad, it's okay. I will. Nobody is going to hang you for it. So you should say, this drawing I have done, it is 100% original. Even if it is bad, it is fine. It is my baby. It's okay. It is better than copying somebody and then passing it off as your. Another question. As a student doing project on type design, what could be the objectives that we can focus upon? Because at the same time, getting to know the terminologies and whole process are also the primary concerns as a learner. Can you give some insights on how design institutions are going to conduct further academics in current scenario? I think it is the same what I have answered. As a student doing project on type design, what could be the objectives that we can focus upon? I think the focus should be to grasp the original flavor of that language which you are working on. Every language has its own charm. You should try to get that charm of that. So that is why a person who doesn't know the language, many people do that, they don't know the language, they go and do a typeface or a font on the language which they don't know at all. And you don't know the culture, you don't know the sequence of writing it. Then you do a lot of goof ups in the final product. So whichever you're doing, be truthful to it, understand the culture and the nuances of that particular. That is why I always tell my students, start with your mother tongue, whichever Indian language you are familiar with, you grew up with, do that first. At my age, at 54, I am still struggling with doing a good calligraphy in Malayalam. Nowadays, and during the lockdown period, I do so much of time in doing Malayalam calligraphy. Every day, I am trying to read this. I am seeing a new stroke, or I am seeing a new proportion, or something new coming up in every letter I write in Malayalam. So every day when I do calligraphy, I am noticing something new in each letter form. So it is like a big ocean, and we are trying to drink just one drop of it. I will like to wind up here because of the time frame. We were planning to have a 45-minute session. I will request all the friends who are attending this and writing comments, please read the blog. I will send the next questionnaire up on the blog. I have not decided on the date and time of the next session. I would like to thank Sagar, the student in Viva Institute of Art, and her Professor Sangeeta Patil, who is the principal there, who supported him to initiate this. And I want to thank all the students who gave this idea to have an interaction session like this.